Hey, what's going on guys? It is Wilhelm here. Welcome back to another City Skylines video. Now, today we are mainly working on fixing up the roads and the lines to make them match the real world much closer than they currently are, because it's not perfect. I kind of messed up, so this episode I kind of have to go fix that. But we're going to be doing more than just fixing my past mistakes this episode. In fact, we're going to be working on flooding the city later. Well, not really the city, but the surrounding area. Mainly the Mississippi River. We didn't get into the Ohio River flooding. I just focused on the Mississippi this time around. But because the area is prone to a lot of flooding, I thought it would be interesting to try and incorporate that with this build somehow. So I worked my best to create a flooded Mississippi River, and it worked okay. And I'll get back into that later. Right now I'm just kind of connecting the paths that are the old train tracks, so then there are more like on points to the path, because right now there are only like a few connections, and I figured that's not that great. It needs to have more in routes. So as you see, we just transitioned to another recording. That's because this one is me finishing all the roads, or at least kind of finishing all the roads, and then I am going through to fix up how it's oriented, because it's not positioned correctly on the land. Like the sizing's pretty close and right. So all I need to do is finish the rest of the roads and then use Move It to, well, move the whole city. And that's pretty much what I do for the majority of this part, just fixing up the roads, getting them pretty close to what they are like in real life. And I think the city does end up looking pretty nice once I'm done with it. Yeah, also I've been trying to think of more ways I can incorporate what I've learned in classes so far. I've learned a decent bit, obviously, but nothing, or not much that I can totally incorporate here. As you can see right now though, I'm kind of struggling with the Move It, because I was moving the whole city. The Move It mod just was not working properly. So I kept on having to tweak it very slightly, and then I'd just move it a little bit, and then the whole thing would just turn 180 degrees. It was annoying. But I eventually got it. The only issue after I did it was that all the roads were now uneven. Some parts were way higher than they were supposed to be. And then I just had to go through and just readjust everything. Which is going to be pretty much the entirety of the first like 10 minutes of this video, is me just fixing up the changes that happened once I tried to make the city closer to reality. As you can see, like right there, look at how much higher the ground is. Way higher than before. I had to go back and fix pretty much everything that I did, which was a bit unfortunate. But I'm glad I did it then, because it needed it. I'm trying to do it pretty realistic and pretty close to what the city is currently formatted to look like. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect since it's City Skylines, and I'm doing some proportions that are more so City Skyline proportions than the real-life proportions. But if you look at the map on like Google Maps, and you look at the top view of this city, they're pretty similar, so that was a good thing. I'm glad I was able to do. Once again, I just had to fix everything, which really sucked. I did not take into consideration that by moving the whole city with Move It, that it would mess up the land, because different things are raised at different elevations already. And once you move it, it like resets it, and it messes everything up. But I eventually got it all fixed. It was pretty hard doing it in the parts that I had already really built up, because it was kind of difficult to see the slope of the ground with all the buildings there. But I was able to get it fairly even. Not like perfectly flat, but like flat enough. Now another part of the fixing I had to do was with the train tracks and the roads that connect up, because once I used the Move It mod, it just messed up how all the roads that weren't in the city connected. So I just had to go back and fix all that. I also had to go back and fix every single road to make sure it was flat-ish, because the area is pretty flat, but like it just did not, you know, stay flat after I moved it with the Move It mod. Now a big thing I'm doing here is just fucking filling up the area with the pipes I'm gonna need. Because one of the things I wanted to do was fill in the city a bit by just putting low density residential housing in those areas like there is in real life. And I kept some of the areas clear, particularly the areas where I want to spend more time developing, which you will see eventually. But yeah, right now, once again, I just had to go through and fix everything I did because I really messed up, unfortunately, with that. But I'm glad I did try and change it, because it does look better when it's, you know, closer to reality. And I think I achieved that, thankfully. And as you can see, I'm just going through adding parks and whatever in the area. Once again, I'm trying to match the real city pretty closely, at least in the random areas that I'm not spending too much time on. I'm gonna revisit the whole city and detail it more and obviously fix it up more. This was just more of I need to get something down and I need to kind of visualize what the city was going to look like when it was more filled out. And I also thought it would be a good idea to at least put some buildings down, because there are buildings there in real life, and that way I can kind of work around that as we go. And as you're seeing here, I'm putting like a path around the city. That's because there's like a raised area that is, I'm not sure if it's a road or a path, but I'm pretty sure it was like an old train track or something, but it's a levee basically. So it's keeping the water back. And since my plan was to flood the city, and because I knew this area does flood a lot, I was trying to make sure I thought about how to handle the flooding before I flooded it. So I made sure all the flood walls were set up, I made sure that anything that was close to the coast was raised up more, so that way the whole city wouldn't flood, because it's in such a bad zone in danger of flooding. But overall, it ended up working out pretty nicely, which I'm very happy about. Once again, I'm just going through and adding some detail around the paths, especially the paths on the outside, because those paths just aren't gonna really change because that's the levee, and it serves its purpose, as you will see later in the video. Basically, I need to fill in the areas that looked a little odd and didn't really fit well for what I was doing. So I put some like parks in areas, or just like paths for parks in areas where it just didn't really feel like it could have a building there, or at least it probably wouldn't be the best location for a building. Anyways, I finally finished the levees, as you can see, which thank God. And now we're moving on to the flooding part. So the big idea I had here was, okay, well, what if we just, you know, flooded the area? Yeah, that was my plan. Let's just flood it. So that's what I did. I flooded the Mississippi. That's north of Cairo, basically. My idea was, since they already have that island there, they could probably fairly, maybe easily set up like a lock system. Unfortunately, City Skylines doesn't have any locks or like any way to do a lock. So what I had to settle with was doing 2 dams there in order to make it kind of seem lockish. I'll try and figure out something to make it look more like it in the future, but right now that's the best I could do. As you can see, I'm messing around with the idea of having 2 dams, except for I realized that that's not gonna work. In fact, that's a pretty bad idea. So I scrapped that idea. I decide, okay, let's get rid of the one that's higher up because there's just not that much of a difference in height elevation there. So basically what I ended up doing was I took the dam that was down there and then just raised it up so the entire northern part would be flooded. Because on Google Maps or Google Earth, when I was, using to refer while I was working on this build, it showed that that area was flooded. So I figured, well, if it does get flooded there normally, and since they have the levees built in a weird way where it is going to let the flooding take over some land, I figured, okay, if they're already prepared to lose the land, why don't we just permanently lose the land? I mean, maybe that could help. So I figured, okay, during the flooding season they can start letting out more water in the dam. So then the dam lowers, and then when it starts to flood, the dam will keep the water from flooding too far, but at the same time it will provide power. I thought, hey, that's a pretty decent solution maybe. It's pretty much the only thing I could truly come up with. I did consider raising the entire city. Not raising as in like burning the city down, but raising as in what Chicago did. Basically just to help the flooding. Unfortunately, I realized that that's just not like the most realistic way to do it. Obviously it has been done, i.e. Chicago, but at the same time, even though it has been done before, I don't really see many people getting behind that idea in the modern day, especially in an area like that. It would cost a lot of upfront money to do that, especially because you would need to at least raise the area on the edges, and right now it's just not looking that great of an idea. I mean, I would want to do something interesting with flood walls and levees. I just don't really know all too much about them. As I go on with this series, I might look into it further and figure out more concepts and ideas that I can bring to help the flooding out in the area. And over here, once again, I'm just fixing up the roads. Like I said last episode, the map creator didn't have the roads in the right place, which makes sense. They don't always do that. But it was kind of unfortunate because that meant I had to go through and do it all myself. And that's what you're seeing here. A lot of these roads I am placing down to make it look more realistic. Having all the roads laid down and all the train tracks laid down and all the levees set up was just so nice to finally get done, because it really shows the progress that it's making. Now that I've got like the bare bones and what's already there in real life, I can start working more on what I think would be a good idea for the area. And that's pretty much what I do for the rest of the episode. As you can see, it's flooded enough. I really had to mess around with the flooding, since in order to get the two different levels, I want to have the sea level lower, but then I need the flood level in the Mississippi higher, so I had to put a ton of water sources everywhere in that area to make it work. At the same time, I'm not totally sure the dimensions of like everything, but I know that the river's so much deeper, and I figure if boats are still going to be using this, they need to have some guidelines, so I added some extra kind of islands, I guess, marking where the river traditionally is, so then the deeper parts are more noticeable for those who need it. And anyways, this city, I'm loving it. I'm loving the progress I'm making. It's looking pretty decent too. Like, I did not think it was gonna look as good as it did, but I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. I was a little bit worried about the flooding. I still think I could have handled it better. Any ideas would be great. I am so down to hear any other ideas. Especially when it comes to building locks, because they don't really have a way to do that in, City Skylines. So if I had a way to do that, that would just be the best, like, honestly. as you see here, I'm trying to, you know, actually connect the newer dam area to the rest of the city, because my plan with this area is that on that island, I'm thinking about putting a college there. Maybe wondering, hey Will, why would you put a college there? What's the point in having a college? How's that gonna help? Well, let me tell you. So apparently, last year I did a research project about the rise and fall and then rise again of cities in the Rust Belt. What I found out, which was pretty interesting, was that there were really only two kinds of cities that were still doing okay in the Midwest, and those were either cities that had really diverse industries there, such as like Chicago is the big one, I guess Columbus maybe, and then also college towns, which is why I said maybe for Columbus, because that falls under both categories in my head. So if they have multiple like industries there, they're gonna be set. Or if they have a college there, they're gonna be set. Now Cairo, it doesn't really have a variety or a big variety of industry. So I decided that the best idea to take for this route would be to create available land for a university to actually build on. And that's kind of what I did. That whole island's gonna be a campus of some sort. I figured, okay, it'll be a little separate. But if we have transportation connecting it, which you will see I do add later, it wouldn't be too bad. As you can also see, I'm working on a sort of port, almost, I'd call it. I know that they are doing or creating a port in real life. I'm not totally sure what's going to look like because I haven't been able to really find any plans online. So I just kind of went with my own idea for what a port would look like, especially with the new system of locks and stuff I have in order. I figured that area would be a pretty nice and safe area for the, whatchamacallit, port. It would be safe from the floods, also pretty close to the city. I decided that area usually does get flooded anyways, so we're gonna just take a little bit of the land out and then have a harbor of some sort there. And I do go through and edit it and make it look better. Once again, this is just kind of the rough setup for everything. This is like the filler episode, almost, I'd call it. This is me getting everything in order to make sure that the next episode is going to have a lot of progress. Because the next one, I think I'm going to focus on the college. Either that, or I'm going to work on the port more. Or I'm going to do both. Who knows? We'll find out eventually. But I'm pretty happy with how the city does end up looking. Especially with my new additions. I don't know, I just am really digging what it's turning out to look like. I keep saying that, and I sound like a broken record, I know, but it's true. I'm happy with it. Anyways, that's pretty much the big things that I do in this episode. Once again, the rest of this episode is pretty much just touching up everything that I've already accomplished thus far in this episode. I made the harbor look a little bit cleaner and more man-made. I figured that would be a bit nicer. And also, I don't even know if I corrected myself in this video yet. I'm pretty sure I said it wrong again, but I'm gonna be way too lazy to try and figure out where I said it because I've tried this voiceover so many times. But I realize that it's not called Cairo, it's called Cairo, or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's Cairo. I looked it up online. Honestly, I thought I was going to have a clearer answer on there after I got a few comments saying I was pronouncing it wrong. But I still didn't get a complete answer, but I'm pretty sure it's Cairo. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Cairo and not Cairo. I'm sorry, but god damn it, your town's called Cairo pretty much, in a place in Illinois known as Little Egypt. Like, can you really fault me? Like, come on, Little Egypt, Cairo. Of course I'm gonna think that. But yeah, I'll make sure I don't mess up again. I promise. I'm sorry about that, everyone. Here I am just working on actually connecting the Cairo College Island to Cairo mainland, pretty much. I want to have the tram go all the way from like downtown Cairo to the campus. and I decided, okay, the best place to kind of have a, I don't know, I want to do something different. So I decided to do a, geez, I can't think of the word right now, but I don't know, like hub, I guess? Yeah, we'll call it like a hub stop, because it's kind of a loop, it's interesting, I want to do something different with it. And it does look pretty cool, I think, at least. But basically the reason why I was doing that was because I wanted to have the college be connected to Cairo, but I also wanted to have the port be connected to Cairo. And I thought, okay, since the port's kind of in between the two, we'll have kind of a big hub stop there. Like, it's super planned, so it's going to be future-proofed with more people as they come. I think it's gonna be pretty dope once it is actually done. I also am really digging some of the roads I downloaded, especially the ones with the trees. Basically, I converted all the roads that didn't have a stop on them to those ones just because they look nicer. And it does its job. It does look a bit nicer. Now, I'm not totally sure what I am going to do with that southern area near the port. I think I'm definitely going to have another almost town center of some sort near that loop, just because it's where the hub is, and also because the port is going to be a big thing. It's supposed to do good. It's supposed to help the economy and everything. So I decided, okay, we're gonna have a town there. But I'm not totally sure how big or how dense I should make it, or even what it should really look like. I'm kind of new to the port idea. I haven't really done many ports or harbors in my time, so any ideas, I will take them. Like 100%, I will take those ideas. But I think the city's coming together pretty nice so far. And I keep saying that, and I know. I am sorry. I know it's getting annoying. But, yeah, I haven't done all too much building itself this episode. Like I said, this episode is mainly just to set up for the future. I just figured that it would be easier to actually make progress if I had the city's groundworks complete. So that's what I did. I just kind of figured out where everything went, put it all together, and it's finally actually looking pretty good. Now in the next episode, we're going to be seeing a lot more of bigger changes and stuff that's just not actually there in real life. This is going to start taking a more of what I envision the city to be looking like in the future. So if you do want to see that, or if you're already enjoying the series, consider subscribing and sticking around for the future episodes. Anyways, that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you in the next one.